Hello there. Today, for something slightly different, I thought I would have a look at a sake. So I have here some Zaku Kanade No Tomo, which is a Junmai Ginjo style of sake. It's produced by a brewery called Shimizu Seizaburo Shoten. The brewery itself dates back to 1896, a historic establishment here, and this is in the city of Suzuka, so near the Suzuka Mountains and the Ise Plain. So they make the point that this is a location that provides beautiful, clean, crystal clear water from the mountains, where high quality rice is available from the Ise Plains. The name of the brand Zaku is simply means to make. I think it's the idea that it's a sort of an artisanal batch product. So very much with the idea that this is not simply a man-made product, it's also a product of a time and a place. You know, some of the ideas of terroir, I suppose, if you were talking about French wine, creeping in here. Evidently, Kanade No Tomo can be translated as wisdom of the dance, or they say also playing musical instruments, so perhaps the wisdom of performance. So I think at the time that this brewery was established, this was an area around Suzuka where there were many breweries creating sake. I also have a date of 1952 for establishment, so I'm assuming that actually the company Shimizu Seizaburo Shoten was actually started in 1952, and it has its headquarters in an establishment that was created in 1896. Today, this is the last of the breweries in this area, and they're very much focusing on preserving the tradition and creating small batch artisanal sakes, hand making everything with small batch starters, using longer fermentation times, and trying to make a very pure, clean, balanced style of sake. And they say that traditionally Suzuka, in literature and poetry, etc., has been associated with a style of sake known as Umasake, delicious sake. And this is the style of sake that they're aiming to recreate with their modern wines. Because Suzuka lies on the path between Kyoto and Ise, which is the holy place of the Shinto religion, traditionally this was a wine that had been popular with pilgrims. So the producers are telling us that this is a very traditional style of sake. To make a junmai ginjo, you can only use 4 elements to produce the wine. So you're talking about rice, obviously, which will have been polished. You're using Koji fungus to convert the starch from the rice into sugars. Obviously you need water, and you need what's called a moto, a yeast. And for this style of sake, you're starting with a highly polished rice. So once polishing is complete, there's only 60% of each grain remaining, giving a higher level of starch. There are no additives. You're not allowed to add alcohol in this style. The result's going to be a lighter bodied and more elegant style of sake. Ideally is served chilled, and that is a nice pairing with something like sushi. So really the key here is the achievement of the Koji fungus, which is done by steaming some of the rice and allowing the spores of the fungus to start converting the starches in this rice into fermentable sugars, such as glucose, fructose and maltose. Once you produce your koji, you wash and you steam the remainder of the rice. You combine those with water and the yeast starter in a fermenting vessel, normally a stainless steel tank. You'll have a couple of processes going on at the same time. You have a fermentation of the sugars, but you've also got the koji continuing to act, turning the starches and the remaining rice into sugars as well. And part of the action of the koji is actually producing umami-like flavours by breaking down some of the proteins in the rice into amino acids. There are no additives, alcohol's not added at this stage. Fermentation goes on, in this case, up to 15% of alcohol. Once that's complete, the mass is pressed to remove the lees. The sake is then filtered, it's pasteurised. Any maturation that goes on in tank. This is not a style aiming at gaining complexity from maturation. So the sake is likely to be filtered, pasteurised and bottled young. There is a note on the bottom of this saying 24/7, so I'm assuming that this has been bottled in July 2024. So let's have a look at it and see what we make of it. First thing to say is that is almost water white. There's perhaps a touch of green or yellow to it, but barely anything. Swelling it, the sake has some obvious viscosity. It's hanging there and slowly forming some quite obvious tears. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? The aromas are really quite complex. They start off with a minerality. There's almost a sort of sapidity, slightly reminding me of Fino Sherry. But then behind that, in a contrast to Fino Sherry, there are estery notes. So it's almost as if there's a banana-y, just very delicate high-toned banana-y note behind that. There's perhaps a touch of citrus. But yes, coming back to minerality, perhaps also maybe a high-toned spice note, just the slightest hint of fennel or something like that. So let's have a taste. On the palate, this has a lovely, clean style, and that fennel note is coming through here. This elegant, delicate, balanced style of sake is meant to be consumed chilled and works quite well being drunk from a wine glass because of its lovely fresh aromas. But yes, here I've got that sort of fennel note running right the way through it. There's a minerality, there's a freshness, there's a hint of sweetness, but that's quite nicely married with the ripeness and the brownness. And those banana notes I noted on the nose, they're sort of coming in with a sort of almost slightly honeyed banana skin note right at the finish, but that's all actually really quite nicely integrated with those fennel notes. The flavours are clean, they're not particularly developing, but there is a lovely clean mineral and fennel note that lasts very well at the end. The alcohol is perhaps providing a little bit of warmth, but it's very nicely integrated. It's not overpowering any of the elements of the sake, and the result is that the enduring finish is lovely and fresh. So you're finishing with this quite uplifting minerality. Sake is not something I drink a lot of, but I have to say I'm really quite enjoying this. There's a freshness, there's an elegance that really marks this out as a high quality product with some beautiful individuality. I'm not really sure how reliable my assessment of this wine in terms of its quality would be, but if this was a wine, I'd be marking this as a high quality wine. I'm probably giving it a score of something like 90 or 91 out of 100. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do please press the like button. That would be fantastic. If you'd like to watch more of my videos, do please subscribe. That would be great. And if you sign up, do make sure you set yourself an alert so that you can be notified every time I publish a new tasting. If you've got any friends you think might be interested in finding out more about sake like this, do please pass the video on to them. I really would appreciate your support in that way. If you've got any comments you'd like to leave, please pop them in the notes below. It would be really interesting to hear what you think about what I've said about this sake, and any comments you have about sake in general. So thank you once again for watching, and I do hope you'll make some time and come and join us for another tasting in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.